Maybe it's because of the videos I've been doing about teenage girls. I think back to when I was a teenage girl and all the things that I used to do. I remember one year in Latin class, me and my friends spent the whole year reading about Caesar and his valiant genocide against the Gauls. It was amazing. All kidding aside, did they really have me read the diary of a genocidal dictator for a whole year? Well, that doesn't seem very responsible. That would be like reading Mein Kampf for German class. I mean, what kind of German class would ask its students to read Mein Kampf? Also, I don't know if I would want to read Genghis Khan's diaries either. Like if he had to write back to the forum to justify himself, which Genghis Khan, I don't believe he would have done. I don't think Genghis Khan is justifying himself to anything or anyone. Genghis Khan gonna do what Genghis Khan gonna do. So respect Genghis Khan. But if he were writing back like, hey, you know that city on the Tigris? Me either. It's not there anymore. Oops, Genghis. Because I think he would hashtag all of his diary entries, hashtag Genghis, hashtag conning it up. I don't know what he would do. All kidding aside, I did take 4 years of Latin. And yes, we had to read Caesar's On the Gallic Wars. Commentarii de Bello Gallic by Gaius Julius Caesar. Caesar, what a man he was, not just a salad, but a full-fledged maniac. Perhaps a wonderful leader. Depends how you define it. I'm not going to make some larger statement about Caesar and who he was. I don't know if I'm in a position to do that. I don't know if we're in a position to do that. However, I can make a statement on how messed up it was to ask a group of teenagers to read the diaries of his conquests, his genocide, the Celtic Holocaust, as it's become known. Yes, I do understand. 4 years of Latin makes me queen nerd. I am queen nerd. I accept it. Anywho, because the Latin involved on the Golic Wars is simple and straightforward, they make students read it because it's a good resource for Latin. I'm going to do a terrible job of describing what the Golic Wars really were. So if you want to learn more about it, please listen to Dan Carlin's podcast, Hardcore History, The Celtic Holocaust. I'm going to link it down below. The Gallic Wars were basically a 6-7 year campaign of Rome against invading barbarian tribes, the Celts, the Gauls. Let's take it back. What happened? A Druid guy who was friends with the Romans came down to Rome and said, look, this is messed up. We just lost a battle with this tribe of Gauls. They're crossing through our territory. They're going to eat everything. And there was a tribe of Gauls like this, actually a combination of tribes of Gauls who left their original lands way, way, way up north of Rome, kind of in the Germanic places, way past their territory. And the Helvetii, and they burned all of the villages that they came from because they were moving. And you know when you really want to move cross country, you let your landlord know, and then you set fire to all of your things so that you can never return because there's nothing for you there? Well, this is basically what the Helvetii did. And they took off migrating across Europe. And these are not people you want to mess with. These were Celts. These were like original Vikings. They were huge. They were blonde. They weren't taking anything from anybody. And that's how the Romans found out about them, because they defeated this Druid's people in battle. This Druid by the name of Diviciacus came down, spoke at the forum, said, look, Caesar, Rome, we've been friends for a while. This is what's happening to us. This massive migration of Gauls, men, women, and children are going to be coming through Roman territory. Watch out. They're not to be trifled with. And Caesar, being Caesar, was like, yo, I got you. I'm a military man. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to bring honor to Rome. I'm going to keep the Celts in their place. The Celts had been acting up for a while. It was constantly giving Rome trouble. In fact, long before Rome had ever become Rome, the Celts had sacked Rome. And Rome never forgot about that. That's going to come up later. So Caesar's basically like, I got you. I'm going to take care of this. So that begins the Gallic campaigns. It's an interesting story. It is history. I'll give you this for Caesar's On the Gallic Wars. It is a first-hand account of history. However, that history is written by the victor. That history is written by the guy making the history. It's Caesar going out there and saying, this is what we did today. Isn't it grand? It certainly was grand in the literal sense of the term grand, but it was also a massive, massive genocide because, like I said, this was men, women, and children. Now, I know what you're going to say. This is the ancient world. They did things differently back then. They didn't have a UN. They didn't have war crimes laws. War crimes laws. Oh my goodness. There was nothing like that back then. Thank the good Lord above that we have war crimes laws. But Caesar didn't have any of this. This book that we had to read for the Latin was Caesar sending back an account of what he was doing. Now, he was sending this back in the third person, so he wouldn't say, I vanquished a tribe of Gauls today. He would say, Caesar valiantly defeated a tribe of Gauls, and Caesar looked amazing doing it. His hair was on point, his toga was popping, he had just whitened his teeth. I wish Caesar was this descriptive on the Golic Wars. It's very matter of fact. This is why people appreciate the Latin. Two things about this book. One, when I went to reread it on Google had on the Civil Wars, which is Caesar's account of the Civil Wars. It's not even the right book. I told Google, this is not the right book. I hope they got the message. I'm dealing with an AI here, and I'm getting more and more confident that AIs will not be taking over the world anytime soon. I get this impression by how they handled my complaint right there. Not to be petty, certainly not Caesar level petty, but they did not do a very good job. That's irrelevant to the topic at hand. I go back to reread this book in English because my Latin is not there anymore. I haven't been keeping it up. It will surprise you to know that I have not had many opportunities to practice my Latin between high school and today. Can you believe it? So basically, Caesar is sending back his own accounts to the Senate about how awesome he is and how he's doing so well with the Gauls and how they are the epitome of evil and a threat to Rome, and he has to do this. Now, there are some people in the Senate that are like, I don't know, it seems like he's justifying genocide, but most of them were like, okay, we're Rome, this is what we do, genocide. This wouldn't be Rome's first genocide. This wouldn't have even been Rome's first genocide within that 100-year period. That's how Rome do. But why would you make children read this? I did go to a Latin high school. I'll give you that. I was one of their last Latin students. The education I had at this high school was sort of from 50 years before. So I'm like, what is this programming? But really, after I've had a chance to think about it, the education that I was getting in this Latin, in this militarism, was little different than the education that my forefathers got. Maybe my grandfather got, maybe my mother got. That is so strange because I remember reading this thinking, oh yeah, that's normal. This is what you do. You vanquish your foes. Duh. They pose a threat to you? Well, not anymore because you got the bigger military. I notice that Americans like to consider ourselves Romans. I think we are supposed to read on the Gallic Wars and sympathize with the Romans. We're supposed to see ourselves in Caesar and not ourselves in these barbarian Gauls who performed human sacrifices, who kept the heads of their enemies as trophies to show company. We're not supposed to see ourselves in them at all. They're savages. We're Romans, so we're on the good side. So every single time that Caesar fells 1,000 enemies in the middle of the field, we're supposed to be like, yeah, Caesar, way to go. You fell those enemies. Oh my God, it was so funny. We used to constantly read the phrase in media campo, which is like in the middle of the field, in the battlefield, in the field of battle. And we would joke every single time we hear it. I go, in media campo, in media campo. In media campo is where Caesar and his men killed a bunch of people. That's where the genocide happened. In media campo. Get it? It's not funny, haha. It's funny like, oh, I was there. It was funny. But we used to laugh about it. Because then after he would kill the men, Stop, wait a minute. Let me get my bearings. After he would kill the men in media campo, he would go and take the women and children and sell them into slavery. You had to be there. It was so funny. I really believe that we were reading this because we were being indoctrinated in Western thought. And Western thought, up until that point, was highly militaristic. We didn't even question that Caesar was the good guy. These guys, I mean, if they were good, where are their books about it? Do you know what I mean? Where's their account of the Gallic War? We don't really have one from them because, well, a third of their people were killed, a third of their people were sold into slavery, and the other third were basically Romanized. So by the end, they were happy that this all happened because the sacrifice of Rome taking over and killing or enslaving most of the people was worth it for them to be Romanized. This is some high-level brainwashing. This is some beautiful propaganda where they can convince you that it was worth it for your entire peoples to be wiped out, essentially, because now you get to be Roman. I mean, being Roman was pretty cool. It's why we have all these Romance languages over the region. French, Spanish, Italian, Romanian, Portuguese, all Romance languages all came from Rome. That whole area was Romanized up to England. So I guess there's something to be said for how successful Caesar's campaign was. But that's a whole nother can of worms because you're talking about how successful a genocide was. In media campo. Goofy. The problem isn't that we were indoctrinated in this way. Because of course we were. You're indoctrinated in things in school. That's the point of school. You are supposed to learn. You're supposed to learn of the country you came from and what it does. Now, the problem with this militarism is that it wasn't just Roman. It's very interesting to hear about the accounts of these Roman soldiers going all across Gaul and seeing all these new things, meeting all these different people and Druids and Celts and Germanic tribes, and then killing them all. Sound familiar?
I wanted to see exotic Vietnam, the jewel of Southeast Asia. I wanted to meet interesting and stimulating people of an ancient culture and kill them. I wanted to be the first kid on my block to get a confirmed kill.
Full Metal Jacket. Full Metal Jacket. When we went to Vietnam. Also, this sort of militarism reared its ugly head in Iraq again, where it was, we're the good guys. America's got to come through and save these people. And so what if we have to mess a few things up? You got to break some eggs to make an omelet, right? It's a very similar militaristic attitude. And I just remember reading this propaganda as a teenager. I had to read the Aeneid too, which is also Roman propaganda, but religious Roman propaganda. And I remember saying to my teacher, hey, Mr. Turner, this is propaganda. And he said, do not cast pearls before swine, meaning that the Aeneid and Caesar's Gallic Wars were the pearls and that I was the swine. But no, not at all. This was propaganda. It was Roman propaganda, and it wasn't very good. I'm sorry, I was not super entertained by On the Gaulic Wars by Julius Caesar. As a very matter of fact, a history book for a sixth grader, basically. It wasn't beautifully written, it wasn't poetic, it was what it was, which was propaganda. I wanted to read Satyricon, but the teacher said that it was vulgar and it was trash. But you know how many genocides there were in Satyricon? Well, a lot of Satyricon has been lost, but there were not many genocides. I'm not saying there weren't some Epstein-level things going on in Satyricon, but apparently that's Rome. And apparently the United States has fancied itself to be Rome and based ourselves on Rome as a government and as a people. And now there's this idea floating around that we're the next Rome, we're the next Rome. Yeah, kinda. But let's not romanticize Rome. Rome was messed up. The people were messed up. America thinks that she's Rome. Like, girl, you think you're Rome? You got to do a lot more sit-ups before you get to be Rome. That's all I'm saying. The point is, I don't see why I had to read the diaries of a genocidal dictator. That's not to say that they do not have any value. Obviously, it was a good first-hand account of what had happened. But I also don't want to read the first-hand accounts of Americans who went and slaughtered mass tribes of Native Americans. I don't think it's healthy to show this to teenagers, because what it does is brainwash them in the militarism that has brought the United States to its knees. Vietnam, it was Iraq, it's the Middle East, it's Afghanistan. We're in wars all over the place, just like Rome found itself in wars all over the place, expensive wars. that we have to justify. I'm going to say this, and I'm just going to say it. We go and we fight these wars and we don't get anything out of them. I am totally against the militarism with which I was brainwashed as a teenager, but that having been said, for all of our militarism, we still come home empty-handed. Wars cost us money. You know how stupid you have to be as an empire for a war to cost you money? Like, girl, empire better. So that having been said, I'm glad now that I realize what sort of low-key brainwashing that was, and that I've been able to reject that. It's so funny that Caesar was launching sort of a defensive war, a defensive offensive. Where have we heard that before? Also, I'm still mad that we didn't get to read Satyricon in class. I had to read it outside of class, and the teacher called it vulgar. But genocide, that's not vulgar? Subscribe.